Good morning. There have been a lot of changes when it comes to getting a property loan. A lot of these have been that aren't very public and can really affect your chances of buying a property. Today's show is all about arming you with the information so you can make the best decision for yourself. Stay tuned. Hey, Happy New Year, episode 344. New year, same great show with myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, talking about open banking. Did you just get screwed? And many, many other obstacles and hurdles when it comes to getting a loan. Mark, good morning and Happy New Year.
Hey, it's a brand new year. 2021.
I know, I feel like a new man. I feel like COVID's behind us now. Everything's done.
You know what? It feels good, but you and I were just saying off air that it's going to be more of the same but less.
Yes, less. And especially now, a lot of people, their New Year's resolution will be buying a property, getting their second investment, buying their first home. And you made a good point sort of off air previously was 5, 10, 20 years ago, a lot of people, their biggest worry when they were buying a property was like, oh, do I want a unit? Do I want a house? Do I want to be in Curly, Freshie, DY? But now a lot of the hot topics is getting the loan. Can I get it? They won't do this. How do I, just getting that loan? And the importance of a broker has probably never been as high. And a lot of deals are still done not by brokers. So I think today's show is very important to get that message out. It's obviously not finance. What's the disclaimer? Finance advice. We're not brokers. All of that stuff, just merely passing on a lot of the feedback we get from the front lines, from buyers and brokers as well. Mark, what do you reckon the biggest changes have been in the last 5 years and 12 months for getting loans?
I think that there was a lot of reporting. So when you used to go to the bank, and people don't, I guess a good thing about us telling buyers that we meet every day and telling people on the show is sometimes you just can't get the information anywhere. It's sort of behind closed doors, even a little bit personal. But people do share that with us when they're buying because, they're trying to, they need help, so they open up and say, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. And we sort of see behind closed doors a little bit. But I reckon open banking, Michael, is the biggest one where now, before you used to take your paperwork to your bank or your broker and you used to say, well, here it is. Now, there was no surprises there because it was your paperwork. So, you could see, that's my mortgage, here's my mortgage, that's my bank statement, there's my bank statement. You were reporting what you knew. Whereas now with open banking, it's very, very different. The banks can automatically see negative debt and they can automatically see positive debt. So what I mean by that is the bank is now coming back to their clients saying, hey, we've seen this, and the client's going, what? Because normally you were supplying that. So when they came back and made a comment, you were like, yeah, of course. Well, I'll explain that. But it's catching a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, and a way, what some people used to be a little bit cheeky would be, they'll go, do you have, how many credit cards do you have? And someone may say, oh, I've only got one, this one, but they've got a second one. And the banks were relying on your honesty really, and they couldn't really tell. So if you said you had a second credit card, you wouldn't be able to get the loan. Some people just only said they only had the one to get the property loan or vice versa, get a higher limit.
People were hiding mortgages 10, 15, 20 years ago. Then they couldn't do that. Then it was credit cards. Now they can't do that. It is really, really tough. It was very honest, which is good.
100%. And also another thing as well, Mark, is no one really uses cash these days. So your outgoing, so not only is all your debt basically accounted for and very open with the open banking, but also all your expenses. Like another thing when you're going for a loan, you want the lowest debt and the lowest expenses and the highest income. Like that, they're the gist of forming a good application. So if your expenses were $1,000 a month and you paid a lot by cash, then they're not really going to be able to trace that. And only a few years ago, paying with cash was very common. But now with Apple Pay, tap as you go, using your phone, I reckon 95% of people's transactions, I reckon there's a lot of people who have 100% of transactions card only, which mean every dollar is accounted for. So that changes it as well, because our sort of point was the biggest obstacle now buying a property is finance, and it should almost be your broker should almost be the first call when you go, all right, I'm going to buy a property. Instead of going, I'm going to meet with a real estate agent, it's let's go meet with a broker. Let's show them everything and let's see how much money I can get, because that loan is basically the biggest obstacle for someone buying at the moment.
But the nice thing there for as a country is that our lending is actually becoming quite safe. Do you know what I mean? Because the types of debts that are being written now, the banks know all of the shit going on. So if people don't know, it came in, I think it was 30th of July, 30th of June this year, open banking, the big four banks have visibility over the big four banks completely. So negative debt, positive debt, they can see everything. So it's almost at the stage now where the banks will say, just sign the application, don't give me anything, we've got everything we need. It's almost it's different.
And you're right. This isn't like a negative thing. Like having a strong property market, having the right people who can afford loans, buy loans, that's the best thing out there. So we're not saying this is good or bad, but you don't want to be ignorant to the changes, and especially when there's a lot of things you can do leading up to it. Like a big one we always say, Mark, is a lot of people would have a little gamble on sports bet. It could be $5, $20. But the banks, as soon as they see that, the red flags go up. So the importance of meeting with that broker, having them assess it, they could be like, well, don't use sports bets for a couple of months, because they do check on that. Luke, g'day, Luke. Happy New Year. Brokers do about 60% of the deals. And to me, that's crazy. Like, I reckon eventually that will get up to 70, 80, 90%, because just the whole premise of it, I almost don't see the benefit of using a bank, like just going down to the teller. And that's a bit of a genuine question, not a bit of a hack at them, because a broker has access to all banks. It'd be like why people love Amazon, for example, because Amazon has access to all shops. You go to one place, access all different vendors, where a bank, where instead of just going to the local convenience store, we've owned the local store. Same as a broker. A broker's got access to 50, 60 banks from the first tier, second and third tier in private lending. So I think that just alone shows a lot of people don't understand maybe the function of a broker and the benefit of a broker would be probably my analysis on that.
And now, if you just tuned in, we're talking about open banking, the reforms, changes, what we're seeing as agents and what consumers of banking mortgages are seeing. I think also, Michael, people have got to understand, most importantly with open banking, is there is a bit of prep work to do. So it's much easier to see now for a bank if you're a good citizen or a bad citizen, because they've got that total I'm sorry, not good citizen, bad citizen, a good banking citizen or a bad banking citizen, right? Yeah. So, but I think automatically people have to understand that what they are spending is on display more than ever. So when you used to think it was behind closed doors, when you spent a lot of money, like you said, on you may have Uber Eats, or you may have a Tab Corp, a Tab gambling debt. You've just got to be very, very conscious that now, because we are spending so much on credit cards, now because you're spending so much out there in the community, it is all being watched and all being recorded when you go for a mortgage. Very, very important to know. So what do? Just be conscious of that. And I think that's the main thing out of today, that, be conscious that when it comes to asking for a mortgage, you may be blindsided a little bit due to the new reforms with open banking and the visibility banks have.
Yeah, and it's a lot of all the other obstacles have sort of been taken away. The barrier to buy. It's really just this finance one. This is stopping a lot of people. Like we went through with first homeowners, Mark, like the benefits out there are insane. Before, you definitely needed your 20% deposit, like say 10 years ago. But now you're buying with a 5% deposit. The stamp duty reforms are going to be very interesting to see how they implement. Interest rates are as low as they've ever been.
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry?
Yeah, exactly that. Interest rates are a quarter of what they were.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's good times, but everyone's got to be conscious that open banking is here. It's real. We've got to cross the T's and dot the I's when we're doing our spending and make sure that we know that's visible. Not only that, but guys and girls, what I would be doing now, because probably the biggest hurdle now is lending, not where you buy, not what you buy, not your deposit, not what you lend, none of that. It's actually your lending. What I would do is I would be talking to a broker, which we can put you in the direction of, or a bank, and I would be asking for a loan when you don't need it right now, and just see what position you're in, and then that will allow you to mold or position yourself better over the next 6 to 12 months. So really, really huge tip.
It's a great tip because it doesn't cost you anything to do it, and it's a bit of a dry run. And also, if something comes up you love, then you can buy it. Luke's asked a good question. Does open banking help the rich or the poor? And I think there's always a lot of people, whenever any new policies or changes, sometimes a lot of people think, well, it only helps the wealthier people and the poor always get left behind or something like that. But I think this one actually would probably disadvantage people with multiple properties, multiple expenses, because it's all transparent. We know a lot of people would, especially got their own business, they may try and hide income and expenses, where if with what you're saying, the poor, which could just be a typical person with a job, wanting to buy their first property, may not even have a credit card. I think it actually helps them with the speed. They'll get their applications done. They can verify they're a good applicant quite quicker. So I don't think this is a straight answer to good or bad.
I reckon if you haven't noticed, guys and girls out there, if you haven't noticed, the last 3 years in particular has been all about Robin Hood lending.
Yes.
Right. So that's all it's about. It's about taking from the rich and giving to the poor. So I think that on a banking point of view. So to go to Luke's question, I think what you will find is good banking citizens, it's actually been easier to get a loan. Bad banking citizens, I think they've been stuck in a high interest rate environment and they can't refinance the stuff that they're on. So it's definitely if you look at the amount of incentive given to first home buyers, if you look at the amount of incentive that's been given to owner occupiers have been preferenced over investors 4 or 5 years ago. So in every aspect, the government has tried to foster, mother, and look after people in single homes with one property getting into their first property more vigilantly than they ever have, and people who have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 properties, the government's simply just not interested in supporting that. So I think that's the majority of people. So it's probably a bit Robin Hood lending is what we're seeing with open banking.
And that's a wrap. Our first show for 2021.
Yes. Have a great day out there, everyone, on Super Saturday.
Super Saturday. Cheers, everyone. Thanks, Luke.